Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe.
Hey everybody, welcome to another experience of Me and Paranormal You. No headphones, this feels weird to me. Like I'm so used to a certain style of recording. We have, did I say what we're doing? Freeballing it. We are, that just reminds me of the song. Cause these, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, I'm trying to remember how it goes. And I got Dan Lindholm here on another experience of Me and Paranormal You. This is Ryan Singer. Thanks for listening to the program. We are in parts unknown Tennessee, headed to parts unknown Florida momentarily. We are embroiled in the middle of two long investigations of pretty intense at times paranormal phenomena occurring or other, cryptid activity, UFO. I mean, I call it all paranormal. I know not everybody does, but we are embroiled in the middle of two fat daddies.
Yeah, brother. Man, I was just thinking about it today. It's so amazing that, we met back in 2019 down in Florida, the same place we're going right now. And man, at that time, I'd had one paranormal experience in my entire life. You took me on my first ghost hunt, or my first real paranormal investigation.
At the dilapidated cabin on the property in Florida.
And since then, I've had a plethora of stuff happen and go on. And now I can't just say I'm a Bigfoot guy anymore because the paranormal found me, man. I'm all in it.
It's funny because I feel like Ed's all in it too, and I feel like I'm all in, like the Bigfoot now. I mean, I had done some squatching, very limited, not very much at all, right, before that 2019 trip 5 years ago. It's almost 5 years. It's almost exactly 5 years ago that we're going back.
Yeah,
and I just keep getting sucked into more and more, Bigfoot or creature stuff. And so it's like these worlds have just kind of really melted. And I think for a lot of people, they've kind of melted in the last 5 years. But once the paranormal grips you, it doesn't let go.
No. And it's just extrapolating, man. More stuff keeps happening. It's like, I've always known that I was a little bit of an empath, my whole life. But just since I got together with Sue and Greg down there in Colorado, it's like it started to amplify my own stuff. And now I'm experiencing stuff that I've never experienced before in my life. That I need to tell you about this.
Yeah.
Thing that happened on this trip. And at work, instead of a paranormal investigation, and we go to this place, and on the way there, the lady was talking to Ed on the phone because she talked to the breeder, and Ed knows the breeder, and she knows about Ed doing paranormal investigations, and she was asking Ed about this paranormal, investigations and stuff, and asked him to read the house for her.
Oh, because it's just for people who aren't familiar. It's Big Truth Pet Transport, so it's transporting pets all around the country and stuff.
Yeah. We're not doing anything illegal. It's pets.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're taking these pets, and this lady said that she thinks her husband is possessed by one of his grandparents or something.
Wow.
And they don't like her.
Familial possession.
Right. So we get there. And I didn't expect anything, I just expected to meet him and maybe check out the house, and maybe I'd feel something in the house or something. Dude, when I shook the guy's hand, it's like my entire upper body just broke out in the heebie-jeebie freaking jingles all over, hair standing up on the back of your neck. It's just like when Bigfoot's watching me, but it wasn't a sense of it being far away and looking at me. This is a sense of this is and right here, I'm facing this, and it freaking scared me, dude, because it was the most intense thing that I've never felt. Just shaking this guy's hand, I swear, I know, and I knew that he is possessed. That guy is possessed. There's another something in him, and I just instinctively knew that. And the guy was a nice guy. We had a nice conversation after that. He didn't act weird or anything. He didn't talk weird. There was nothing except for that feeling, man. And I'm telling you, I swear, I was scared. I was literally scared because I've never felt something that strong. And I just knew for a fact that what she'd said on the phone was true.
So what we have here is like, you know, I don't know the details of the possession, but you're sensing. Do you think it's when you sense a competing energy of someone when you shake his hand, like there's his energy, but then there's something else's energy, so which feels a lot different, I'm guessing, than just a person who just has their own energy going.
Right, and I'm used to reading a person. I mean, I always like sense people's emotions or whatever, always from the time I was a kid, you know, just being in the same room with them or interacting with them. So it wasn't a surprise at all, you know, that would happen. But boy, it was like an entire different thing. It was like my spidey senses just exploded on me.
So let's see if we can dig into this a little bit, because I'm curious about the difference. So when you want to, if you could characterize the difference of energies of like reading someone and their energy, because, you know, I think, you know, many of us who have tapped in and long ago accepted, you know, the empath qualities and things like that, or people around the world who are more and more people are doing it. Everybody can read people to a certain degree, right? Or read a room or whatever, right? So it's not such a woo-woo thing as it used to be. It's just a normal thing that we can do as creatures. So you've become more adept and more in tune with being tuned in to other people's energies. How would you say that feels, at least in comparison to what you felt when you shook this guy's hand?
Well, it was like night and day. The one was like a normal thing, and the other was like a totally extraordinary thing. You know, I mean, it was that.
Like, is there a difference in like physical sensations?
Just the intensity of it, and instead of just the back of my head or just the back of my neck or just my arms, it was like an all over tingle.
Okay,
like
so
really
you physically...
powerful. I physically felt more than I've ever felt from any other thing. You know, with the exception of the one time when a Bigfoot fight or flight thing happened, when I was seeing Bigfoot and he knew I was seeing him, and I sensed his fight or flight. And it was like the same very overpowering sensation, like a really, really, really strong. But this was different because with Bigfoot, there's always the sense of the distance. Just like I always use the analogy of being like in a big cafeteria or something, and somebody's looking at the back of your head, and you automatically turn around and look at them. Mm-hmm. And even if they're way in the back of the room, and you'll meet them eye to eye, and you'll be like, "What are you doing looking at me, dude?"
And we've all been on the other side of that. We've all been looking at somebody else.
Right.
And then get
turn
busted.
around and look right at you and
get
busted.
It's like, how'd they know I was looking at them?
So you know, people call it woo or whatever. It's not woo. It's just an innate human condition. We actually feel this. Everybody does. But when it's Bigfoot, when it's a big 1,000-pound animal that could or could not be predatory, you just feel the weight of it. You feel the difference because just the size of it, just the weight of it. And it's our instinct from running from saber-toothed tigers back in the day. You know, you instinctively know when something's going to get you.
When someone's got its eyes on you.
Right. And it's totally a line of sight. I don't know if I've mentioned this before on your thing, but I tested it. We went out to the side of this camp, and my friend actually first went out there, right to the edge of camp, and he was standing there for a second, and then he went down on it like almost to his knees, crouched way down, and then he stood back up. And then he came into camp and he got me, and he said, "Come over here." And I went, and we did the same thing. And when we got to the edge of camp, boy, you could feel that sensation of being watched like crazy. It's like, yeah, we were confirming with each other, yep, I feel it. There's definitely something watching us. And then he said, "Now stoop down." And I stooped down, and the feeling totally went away. It was like my head just totally cleared, and it was like nothing. And he goes, all right, now stand back up. And when I stood back up, that feeling just went whoosh, right back up. And so I know from my own personal experience, from that experiment, that it is a line of sight issue. When they're seeing you, you feel it.
There's an energy of observation, it sounds like, is what I'm thinking. So, which is, you could say it's scientifically provable because of the double slit experiment. Particles behave differently when observed, right? From the wave to the particle or whatever. So the energy or the electricity or whatever people want, or whatever, I think energy is probably best for our purposes here. The energy of observation,
right,
it's a physical sensation, and I think it's clearly a two-way street, where it's because it's an exchange of energy. One might argue, I guess.
Yeah, because like I mentioned in the one with the fight or flight. See, what happened in that one was my buddy was behind me quite a ways going down the trail. We were exhausted. We went on a 10-mile hike, trying to go on a 15-mile hike, and it didn't work out for us. We got way back in there, and we were so dead, and we didn't even get halfway and had to turn around and come back, and we were on our way back out. And we almost called for help when we got to the top where we had cell service at the top of the ridge. But then we were headed down, and he kept saying that it felt like something was watching us. And I didn't even feel it. I was like maybe 30 yards ahead of him, just stumbling down the trail. And he kept, and then finally I did feel it too. And I can explain that because he's bigger than me to begin with, plus he had a bigger pack. So I think whatever was observing us was watching him because, he's the bigger guy. And, but then he's telling me, and I started feeling it too, and I'm all, yeah, I feel it, dude, like there's something. And he said, it's like it's up on the top, up on this hill. He even got like the direction. And we're sitting there, and he goes, and I hear him say,
so he's a squatcher.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
I don't know if you met it. I don't know.
I haven't met Mike, but yeah.
But yeah, he's my squatching buddy over in Oregon. And so all of a sudden I hear him say, I see it. I see something. I see a branch move. And he was pointing. And I turned and I looked at him. And then I looked where he was pointing up on the hill. And boom, I see this perfect silhouette of this Bigfoot, like from the knees up, in between two big trees. So he thought he was totally in the shadows because he was totally in the shade. But there was a tree behind him the sun was actually on the tree, and it was all lit up light green. So it was just a perfect silhouette of a big old Bigfoot standing halfway up the mountain, from me. I could see him really good, but he was up a ways, and oh my God, I just told Mike, I said, oh my God, I'm looking at him. He's looking at me, and, I can totally feel it. He knows that I'm here, and I know he's there, and Mike's coming. I'm all, come on. And I did not take my eyes off it. I didn't try to get my cell phone out or nothing like that. I just wanted to watch him to make sure I could see where he went. And as I'm watching him, he crouched down, but he did it so slow that I didn't even detect movement. I couldn't even detect that he was disappearing until all of a sudden his head was gone under the bushes. And I was just like, what just happened? And he just seriously, he just started squatting down. He just did the elevator move.
That's what I was going to say. Like when you're standing behind the couch, and you just act like you're on steps or something.
And by the time Mike got to me, he wasn't even visible anymore. But I told Mike exactly where he was between those two trees, and Mike's all, oh yeah, he's there. I can feel him. I can feel him watching us. And he goes, let's wave at him. And I go, all right. And he and I standing next to each other, a couple big old dudes, and we did this big overhead wave, both of us together, waving back and forth over the top of our heads. And when we did that, oh my gosh, I swear that feeling of being watched, it all of a sudden hit 1,000. It was the most intense feeling I've ever felt in my life. That Bigfoot had a fight or flight instinct because it knew that we were watching it. And it thought it was hidden. And it was the most scary, exciting, just crazy feeling I've ever felt. It was like I say, it was like that feeling of being watched, but 1,000 times. And it was a warning that, we might get attacked. I mean, it was like really, really intense. It was, and Mike felt the same exact thing. And it just hit us like, boom, man. And that's the most extreme feeling I ever had, besides shaking this guy's fucking hand.
Oh, wow, I totally forgot about the shaking the hand thing because I'm so enthralled in this story. Let's come back and we're going to take a quick break for commercials. We're going to slide those in right here. I got my buddy Dan Lindholm. We are getting ready to go back down to Florida for 5 days, 5 nights, and who knows what's going to happen down there, but I'm excited beyond all excitement. So patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, no commercials. And we're back. I'm here talking with Dan Lindholm, and we're talking about the difference between, reading someone's energy and reading the energy of a person who clearly has something else with them, whether it's a hitchhiker, a possession, or an attachment. I'm not so sure that there's a huge difference between those things. I don't know. But we can throw those all into the same category of a +1, if you will. Like, you RSVP'd to a wedding and somebody else decided they're coming with you and you don't necessarily want them with you at the party. Right. But, and then the correlation between the energy felt in that situation and shaking this guy's hand and in the fight or flight and the intensity of the energy of making contact with a Sasquatch. And I don't know if there is any way to properly describe an encounter energy to someone who's never had it, without them really kind of, I'm not saying you have to be like terrified or anything like that, but even being out in the woods and like, something is there. There's something so unique about that energy that's different than any kind of paranormal, like in a haunted house or something like that.
So many of the stories, so many people, it affects them in a very mental way, that I felt like I was being told to get out, or I was paralyzed with fear, there's always that element extra. It's almost a +1 on the fear, and it's because it's projected to you. It's not just your brain playing tricks on you. It's not just the environment. It's something that's actually being projected to you. You know what I mean?
I think you do yourself a disservice if you try to ignore it and write it off as just, I'm in my head. What you're doing is you're putting yourself in a situation where you're not following your instincts, your natural given abilities to either protect yourself or otherwise. Yeah.
And I did that so much when I first started going out in the woods back in like 2013, when I first moved to Oregon. Actually able to get out in some real woods, and I would always pass it off as just saying it's just in my head or something when I get these feelings of being watched or something. And next thing you know, we'd have rocks thrown at us, and it's like, and I finally started just like telling people I was with, what I was feeling. And then all of a sudden I was the guru because I was telling them that we're being watched. And then a few minutes later we'd get rocks thrown, and it really helped me to trust that feeling more and know and recognize it. You know what I mean? It's just like anything. The first time you experience ice cream, it's like, fuck, that's cold, and you just don't know what to think of it, but you get used to it and then you learn to recognize, and then next thing you know, you're fucking out there trying to stop the truck.
You're addicted to ice cream.
Yeah.
And I ain't mad at you for it because I am addicted to ice cream against my body's better judgment. The fascination I have with the energy of encounters is, I don't think I've ever I'm on energy. Energy is my word tonight.
Energy over.
The observation energy or the energy of encounter. So I've got some new word energy.
Taking your energy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate your energy is being reciprocated, and I appreciate that. And so, God, it's like, I get so excited about the prospects. We were making jokes earlier today because we were out, getting some supplies and equipment stuff and organizational equipment for the equipment. And it's such a fun thing to be doing. The organization, the compartmentalization of, the batteries go here, and, Ed got a whole new setup, and Ed's a gadget guy. And I sometimes I get overwhelmed with like my desire to have, if I just had everything I've ever wanted to observe or capture or etc., there would just be no end in sight to the evidence I could present people. But then it's like, settle down. Most of the time, we all know the name of the game, and the game is the trickster and the malfunctions of said equipment, yet it doesn't stop us from getting the equipment.
Right. Dude, I came to a conclusion a long time ago. I used to buy so much stuff, and I had all this crap, and I tried to use it all. And for one thing, I was hardly paying attention to what was going on in the woods because I was always messing with my equipment, trying to get it to work right. For another, I was always changing batteries. You're out there, paranormal crap going on, your batteries are getting drained. Another thing is, then all of a sudden you have hundreds of hours of footage. And who's going to review all this footage?
Right.
Who's got the time to review all this footage? You can't hire somebody to go through it all. So for me personally, I totally am like anti everything. I'm out there with my cell phone, and it's got a really good camera on it. And, I might have a gimbal. And that's pretty much it for me, because it's just like all the rest is kind of overkill. For me personally, it doesn't work, because it's just the more technology I have, the more data I have that I have to sift through somehow. And it's just, I don't have the energy for that.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between post-investigation and investigation. There's the pre, there's the actual, and then there's the post. And, then there's the presentation of the thing that you get out of post, which is a whole nother thing. But because you could have the greatest piece of evidence and, you could put it out there, and for some reason it's just not being seen. And you're like, how's this not getting seen? Or, I've had encounters with people, where, I need to put this out there again, because every once in a while people will send me like great evidence or like a clip or like, oh, my best friend, blah, blah, blah. Here's the video. Stuff that's not out on the internet, right? And if you've got stuff like that, I'd love to see it, to the people listening. And also, we're recording this on my cell phone, if you're noticing a difference, by the way. I guess I should have said that at the beginning, but we're 20 plus minutes in, but because we're just on the fly here. So, what was I saying? Oh, I've got a couple of different videos on my phone and photos where I'm like, show me the biggest skeptic in the world. Give me 5 minutes. If I can find the video through my fucking folder or whatever, give me an extra 5 minutes to scroll and find it. They will not be a skeptic by the time I'm done with that 5 minutes, because I have 3 videos and 2 photos on my phone that'll change anybody's mind, right? In my opinion, I have that. And then I'll show somebody the video and they'll just be like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I'm like, what do you mean? What? You're not shitting your pants right now? Like, how are you
did
not
you
stunned by this?
Did you watch it?
Yeah, right? Did you
really watch it?
What were you doing just now when you were pretending to look at my phone? But it's also, I forget, it's such a personal thing. The perspective of what is supernatural or paranormal. The experience is such a personalized, it's hard to quantify, I think.
It's so belief oriented, and the problem is too much doubt in the people that are just reviewing stuff. Everybody thinks everything is faked, and certainly there's a lot of bull crap out there that's faked right now, but you can tell every time. You can totally tell when it's CGI or AI or anything. It's like pretty friggin' obvious, you know what I mean? And people posting stuff out there that's real. And, you got to look at it sometimes and at least question your own opinion that you think it's fake. At least go, well, maybe I'm not right on this one. You know what I mean? And some people are just out there calling fake on everything, you know.
Which in that situation is, what is it about yourself that you are calling fake right now, right? Like if someone just wants to call everything fake with no reason to, and I'm speaking about myself here too, like every once in a while, sometimes I'll be, I don't know what the word is, fatigued from just getting, we talked about this last night.
Yeah.
When people that you've known or people in your life who you just meet who have just gotten into this stuff, all of a sudden it's almost as if you're a professor at a college teaching, PhD class in like writing and speech, and someone sends you a clip like, have you heard about the alphabet?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh yeah, I know what the alphabet is because we're over here, talking about stories and words and all kinds of stuff. But have you seen this video about something called the alphabet? I got the same video sent to me twice in the last 24 hours. The video I showed you last night, someone else sent it to me today.
Wow.
And so every once in a while I can get fatigued with that stuff. And just like, you don't think I have heard of this or whatever? Like, can I get and then it was weird. Yesterday was a video day for me. I got a bunch of videos sent to me yesterday from different people about different things. But, and I love that, because sometimes I haven't heard of stuff. There's no way I can know everything. Never will. But the fatigue of, it would be someone like you just meet being like, have you heard that Bigfoot likes to take sticks and hit trees? I think that's called wood knocking.
Yeah.
Wow, huh?
Did you know that they make plaster casts out of Bigfoot feet?
Yeah. I'm such an idiot, though. I already told you about my big plan for 3D printing, right? And how I just had it backwards in my brain until I talked to Ed yesterday. Anyway, we're still going to do it, but let's get back on track. Speaking of tracks.
Yes, sir.
I want to know more about some of these paranormal things other than the handshake, too, that have happened the more you've tapped in. You can talk about anything, too, like as far as whether it's, the Colorado Mutilation Ranch or,
almost exclusively Mutilation Ranch, man. That's been the big place where I've had, so much weird stuff happen, like, I got touched on my head a couple times, 2 days in a row there, and I didn't like that. But one of the things what really tripped me out on that trip was when Ed comes in and he says, I'm just gonna write this down, and he puts it on the table, and then he goes, all right, Dan, come out with me on the porch. He was out there smoking a cigarette or whatever, and I go out there with him, and I knew immediately that he was feeling like he was being watched or something. So I went out there and I was scanning up and down the street. You can see really good from his porch. And I told him straight up, I said, I don't sense anything up or down the street watching us at all. I said, none of these houses give me any kind of vibe at all. I said, but like my shoulders and the back of my head feel like heavy and like there's something like behind me, like the house or whatever. And we go back in the house and then he takes Sue out there. And they're out there for a minute, and they come back in and Sue's going, yeah, she's sitting there in her chair smoking her cigarette like she always does. And this lady in the chair was right behind me when I was out there on the porch. And I was just like, oh my God, geez. Yeah.
And Ed had written on that piece of paper.
Just a feeling of being watched, I think.
Yeah. So, that's 3 people. Now, this was over at Greg's house in Trinidad area. It's where, we did have that. You had the sensation of being touched twice. I think it was in the house, right? And then the thing with Mama Sue happened there. And I had a hard time sleeping in his house the whole time we were there.
Right. Yeah, me too.
And I was always up until like 4:30. It felt like 5 a.m, just kind of laying there being like, just listening, because I was like, I'm like that in places that I know are like that. But so it's kind of I don't know if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to some degree, but, we're going to the granddaddy of them all here in 48 hours. We'll be in the place where, I'm lucky to sleep at all the whole time I'm there.
I'm really looking forward to getting out there, man. Because the last time I was there, I was just the Bigfooter guy, man, and now it's like now I kind of am way more in this paranormal world, way more.
Well, I'm curious if you think, looking back on that 5 years ago, when you look back at the amount of things that actually happened while we were there, how would you characterize that? Good, bad, indifferent, a lot? Not, a good amount.
A lot. We had a tree pushed over. Man, we were out there at that cabin, and I heard one jump up and run away, a damn Bigfoot, and then it circled back around through the forest, and then we caught it on thermal, on all fours, or on its elbows, basically, looking at us. And, that was great. And then we casted a 16-inch print right in their yard.
16 inches also. I'm glad you remembered the size. I forgot.
And you went running up the hill because something screamed at you.
Yeah.
I went down to see where the portal was, and I told them up there on the deck, I told them where the portal was because I could see it with my own eyes. The only time I've ever seen anything like that in my life. And I stood in the very middle of that thing, and I spun around, and I just put my finger out, my arm out. And I spun around in a complete circle, and my hand never left the circle of the vegetation. And then I put it on the other circle, because there was like 2 circles. And I put it on the other circle, and the same exact thing. It was like a perfect concentric circle twice around a center spot. And I documented that not very well, just with my phone, my phone in my hand, and I told them that, it's right here, right? And they said, yeah, that's where it is. And we left, and 20 minutes after we left, we put up a camera. 20 minutes after we left, a tree was pushed over right into the center of that.
That's right, and I don't think we heard it, right?
We never heard the tree come down.
It's like, how do you not hear a tree fall?
But it totally ruined any measurements or anything that we could have done.
Yeah, and it's not the tree that had
half of the thing was covered by a tree.
The tree didn't have a trail cam on it, did it?
No, it was just a different tree.
Yeah, and the trail cam didn't pick it up.
But the trail camera it picked the tree coming down. But not like it didn't.
All that footage has just disappeared.
Wow.
The trail camera footage of Ed and I walking out of the Sugar Shack that night, and then of the flashlight dancing on the side of the Sugar Shack as I ran up the driveway. I've seen it, but it's gone now. I have it's on maybe one of Ed's frozen bricked computers around here somewhere, or a hard drive, but we've been unable to find it, and it's frustrating. But looking back, and I didn't really do a laundry list of things about that first 2019, until I was putting together an itinerary for the January trip of this year. And then I wrote down, I was making a list of, like, these are the things that we've gotten previously. And I was just like, this list just keeps going and going and going. And so I'm curious about your expectations, I suppose, going into this trip. If, like, basically, if a UFO doesn't land, are you going to be disappointed because of everything that happened previously?
No, not at all. Because just like when we went out to Colorado, like you and I both said that, we didn't really expect anything to happen, because there's so many times when you go on these investigations where nothing happens, And that's important to document and tell people too. And I don't think that gets told enough, that when people go out and they have an unsuccessful trip, they don't go tell everybody about it. But we should, because people need to know that every time you go out, it's not paranormal crap going on. We're not lying when we talk about it. It's just that something happens, so we talk about it.
Wouldn't that be funny though? You just gave me this idea. Like, you come back from a trip and you're like, it was wild. We had this, like, we were doing this thing in Florida, and there was a panther that kept hanging around, and we were gifting apples, and we realized this panther was taking all these apples. And then you have like a real life skeptic being like,
you didn't have a panther.
It was more likely it was a Bigfoot. They're so skeptical of you just telling, oh yeah, and then I woke up and I had coffee. Did you really have coffee? Right. Are you sure it was coffee? I think it was probably cola you drank. And it's like, no, I drank it, man. Right. I know what I drank. And they're like, oh, I'm not so sure you do. Anyway, but
yeah, at the same time though, I do feel like I do have pretty high expectations, just because of what just happened just last January when you guys were there. And I already know what happened when we were there back, in 2019. And I know what happened in Colorado when we both thought, nothing might happen. And then we had all kinds of crap happen. So it's highly likely that we're going to have some great stuff happen. But it wouldn't be the end of the world to me if it didn't.
How important is the documentation of phenomena in a trip like this for you?
It's paramount. You know why? Because without that documentation, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? There's been so many things that I realize now. There's been so many things that have happened on my Bigfooting trips and stuff. And I got these stories. But, I mean, a lot of it's not even on video, much less written down somewhere. You know what I mean? So at some point, I'm going to forget. And that's it. It didn't happen. You know what I mean? So I think it's super important, especially in an area or a place that is of this much importance, with this much history and this much stuff that has gone on here. It would be a disservice to the bridges if we didn't document well.
Yeah, and I feel like it's baby steps. And I feel like it's puppy steps. Every time we go out there, I feel like we do learn a little more. And I wish it was giant elephant steps, right? And we could give them all this great information and help them truly just fully understand everything that's happening out there and to them and with them. And obviously that's the end goal. And the main purpose of the trips out there is to help them understand. And, the documentation is great, right? And because it helps, specifically for them, for the people in their lives who think that they're whack jobs.
Right.
And they can be like, well, look what these investigators documented out here. Like, see,
That's
I'm not
a really
crazy.
good point.
And it's specifically mostly for them, right? And sure, a documentary that we can put out maybe sometime in the future, right? Obviously, it's interesting to get this information out, and especially, like you said, of a place of such importance. And I guess I don't really think of it in those terms because I've become so familiar with them.
Right.
And I've been down there a bunch now just to stay the night a few times. I've been down, so this will probably be if I had to guess, my 6th or 7th trip to their property since 2019. And it is one of those things where when you're inside of something, it's hard to really fully understand it.
Absolutely.
All the way.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, what do you think would be a win on this investigation, or like a big win, or like really any investigation that you go on or any trip you go on? What would you consider as a big win for documentation?
Something that's groundbreaking. Something like the device you were telling me about you used down there in Florida in January, and that the guy is going to bring again. If you can get like repeatable results with this thing, and we can talk to the other side, that's groundbreaking. That's something it's gonna stand above anything else in this investigation that happens, if that comes to fruition.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've come to believe, at least, in a solid way, not like, I'm not immovable on this, but that ITC is the gateway to belief for all skeptics. And the instrumental transcommunication devices, whether, from the ghost box to the most complex thing, like, because what we're going to be using is a pretty fucking complex thing. I wouldn't know how to, first of all, set it up or do anything. Luckily, we got Matthew Jackson joining us for that. But I believe that ITC devices are going to be, they are the probably most profound way to give evidence to a skeptic, even more so than a video, because of the skeptical nature of like AI, or it's, Photoshopped or After Effects or animation, blah, 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 right? I think these ITC devices and the evidence that they can give, which is information that other people shouldn't have, it's pretty profound.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's by far the biggest thing that might come out of this. And secondary is just to keep telling the story and document what's been going on there, And that's really important too. It really is, because it's a big story. There's a lot to it, and it's been going on for a lot of years. And again, it would be a disservice to these people if we went on there and just, say some Joe Blow, brand new internet face, decides he wants to go out there and, he's just in it to try to make a name for himself, and he's out there faking evidence and making all this hype about it. That's totally a disservice to the entire story of their place if somebody were to do that. So what I'm saying is just the opposite of that kind of behavior is what I completely expect from our team.
Yeah, the attention seeking and the short term like hits, eyeballs, views, clicks, all that stuff it's culture now. That's what stand-up comedy has become, in some regards. And I don't necessarily play that game, but because everything's fad. There's so many fads come and go constantly, but the consumption of a thing is a real change in whatever that thing is, and how people consume comedy or paranormal information, or because there's a ton of, every paranormal investigation team has their own TikTok channel, right? And they're posting videos, and people can see crazy stuff happening that they've documented. A lot of them will throw like some crazy music and sound effects and things like that. It's like, I don't need that, because I want to see the evidence, right?
Right.
But it's entertaining, not everybody's here for like, I want a evidence-based presentation of material.
Right.
Some people just want to be entertained.
And entertainment, the value of entertainment has become such that it's more valuable than truth in a lot of cases.
Than education or
these
truth,
days.
Yeah. Or
and it's really sad. It's really sad chain of events that brought us here, but that's just the truth of it.
I think it was a slippery slope. It probably started years and years ago. It started with, if we can give this information and education, if we can present it in an entertaining way, people are more likely to watch it or consume it or listen to it. And then that becomes, okay, they get used to that. Okay, we have to make it more entertaining. Oh shit, they've adjusted. We have to make it even more entertaining.
And this is a real popular idea. We need to push this because we want more people to come to our channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get it. That's just the way things work.
But it's just it's big truth is all about the truth, brother. And it's just like it pains me so much to see the state of the internet and the way, like I mean, that's just it in a nutshell. Entertainment has trumped truth.
Well, yeah, I do believe that there's a ton of people out there trying to present in the right way, and they're doing it the right way. I do believe that. I do believe that there's a lot more than people think, and whether the algorithm doesn't push them to the top, you don't see them.
And I was just going to mention that's the problem. Really, it's because they're trying to feed people what they think they want instead of trying to
what keeps them there
push
on
the
their
truth
phone.
and actually show the reality.
Yeah, they just want to keep people staring at the phone, but so they can watch more commercials. But it's wild, like. When you talk about the story of this, we're going to take one more quick, speaking of commercials.
Okay.
I want to throw some commercials in people's face right now. We're going to be right back with Dan Lindholm. We're going to talk about, if in fact we're being a little too big for our britches, thinking that there is historical importance to actually telling the story of the Florida location. We're going to dig into that a little bit more when we get back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month, no commercials. You could probably hear Ed's TV in the background. I don't know what he's watching. I'm going to take your fucking face off. Like, let's see. He's probably watching old street fight videos on YouTube or something. Anyway, so I got Dan Lindholm here of Big Truth. We're getting ready to go back down to Florida. I want to talk about the historical importance, if there is any, to getting the story right about this location and about the people who live there. We've been talking about that a little bit here leading up to this. And I guess when you really think about it, if you step back and separate yourself from it, you begin to understand that, okay, this is a location that was on the first episode ever of Finding Bigfoot. There are other research teams that investigate this property that we're not at the liberty to really discuss who they are. There's, us who keep going back.
There was a movie that was filmed there that was based on the true story of their house and their place, and the movie never did make it to post production, but they had a film crew out there and actors and filmed on location, and it was an important enough place for that, and that was way back in 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I guess you can kind of forget that. I mean, when this idea was first pitched to me, I'll never forget where I was. I was in the bedroom of my old apartment in Glendale, California, and Ed called. I was working on a different investigation at the time. It was kind of like an attachment, true crime situation with a friend of mine and her family. And then Ed calls me up and tells me about this. He says, "Do you want to go to the Skinwalker Ranch of the South?" And I said, "Well, you bet your sweet tush I do." And then, we hit the ground running from there, and that's where we met. And I wonder, everybody, it's not like, I'm torn on this. Every place in the world, everywhere we walk, our feet are above the bones of someone who once lived.
Right.
We're talking
right.
billions of years of life, right? So we're talking all kinds of potential for hauntings and other strange activity everywhere you go on this planet. And, but then for some reason, it seems that there's certain places that are extra strange.
Yes.
For some unknown reason, at least unknown to us at this time.
Yeah, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I know I've been to 3 of them, man. And Soha in Southern Oregon is one of them, where we've had portals open up and a bunch of Bigfoot activity, etc. And then you got the Colorado Ranch, which is an amazing place with all kinds of stuff going on. And then we got the Bridges, Florida property.
Yeah, I guess it's an embarrassment of riches.
It is an embarrassment of riches. I feel super lucky, and I've always felt lucky because so many people have been looking for Sasquatch their whole life, and I've seen them several times. I'm really, really lucky, and I don't know, maybe it's my energy, maybe they come to me, who knows? But
maybe try not being an asshole.
Yeah.
For once.
Yeah, see, and I've lived by that motto, so maybe that's what.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, it is pretty cool to think about, and when you really, I think when you earnestly seek experience, and you have a genuine interest in this and a fascination with all the subject matter and things like that, I think you open yourself up to more experiences for sure. I'm not so sure that I definitely don't think it's not everybody couldn't have a situation, because I think they could. And there's so many cool places to go. And there's so many cool places I've never even heard of yet.
Right.
That I won't hear about for years. And then I'll hear about them and be like, what? How did I not know about? Oh my God, what?
Right.
So it is pretty cool. Because the Colorado Ranch, if people watch the show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, it was just on an episode not too long ago. This is the ranch where, the Fitz investigation with our buddy Greg Feynman and Mama Sue and Dan. And so it was just on an episode of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. People would recognize it from there, or will probably once Fitz comes out, that we're working on still. But it's, at the end of the day, these stories, I guess, are the only thing we got. Everything is a story. Human history is a story, right?
Well, true. And I think all we're doing out there trying to get evidence is we're just trying to find little ways to support our stories. It really is all about the stories. It's all about the experiences, and that's what people can relate to, is an experience, not a data point, but the reason we're trying to collect evidence is to support our stories, because in the end, it's just a story if you don't have something to back it up.
Yeah. And unfortunately, stories aren't enough for people anymore.
No. And it's too bad, because stories are great, man. And you should trust people. Trust people. If they're fucking got the balls to come out and tell some crazy ass story, what are the odds that it's not true? Come on, give me a break. People don't want to fucking face ridicule and shit from saying this stupid crap that's not right, you know? And if they're willing to say something that sounds fucking nuts, it probably happened. That's my experience.
Yeah, because if they're in no way, shape, or form benefiting from this, you always hear the argument, oh, they just want attention. Oh, really? You think everyone has an attention-seeking disorder in this world? I do think that we're pretty prone to just blanket statement. Like, we're real quick in labeling mental disorders and illnesses nowadays. We throw that stuff around like it's nothing anymore, right? And I'm not saying that there's not an increased awareness of these things and that the stigma hasn't been slowly but surely being washed away. So more people are able to identify mental illnesses or disorders or whatever that they've been suffering from. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when it comes to people labeling other people or saying about other people, all blah, blah, blah. And it's just rampant, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like, talking about the paranormal in such an open way has opened people up for years and years and years to such behavior. And that's why so many people are closed off about sharing their experiences. Then cut to nowadays, when it's kind of, the stigma's kind of washed away a little bit on this as well. And now it's like, oh, does everybody have a paranormal experience? Well, chances are probably, yeah. They're not these like special experiences that only the chosen get to have. Right.
Right.
Now that the stigma is washing away,
only the people who are brave enough will talk about it.
Yes.
You know, and it's not attention seeking. It's being brave, man. It's facing your demons. It's coming out and telling the truth when you know it's not popular. I mean, that's what it's about, you know. And it takes a lot more integrity and honesty to tell a really fucking crazy story than it does to say, oh, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And, and it is my hope that in time, everyone will accept and come to terms and embrace even the idea that they too have probably had a paranormal experience and they no longer need to hide it or keep it away. Like, I will never run out of people to talk to on this show because I believe that there's billions of people who have had an experience of some kind. And, that's my hope. And I don't think we're that far away from it, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, on the acceptance level, I think we're close, It's like society's kind of gone that way in a lot of ways, where things that weren't accepted are now being accepted, wholesalely. And
well, we made the joke at the beginning of this about someone sending a video and being like, have you heard about the alphabet? And I want to be very clear now that that's great that we get those videos, right? Because that's a person who has finally accepted, right? That they've had some crazy stuff happen to them maybe, or they've seen it, or they've experienced it, right? These are these people. And so I don't want to be... So people listening would be like, well, Ryan, you say you want everyone to be comfortable with this, but you're making fun of people.
Right. We should temper our frustration a little bit.
And it's so, I just want people to know that I like receiving those videos, especially from people that I'm not expecting them from, because it's like, oh, wow, this person's like thinking about these things now. When before they always were just like, oh, Singer's insane. Singer's crazy.
That's basically all it's all about, is having an open mind, man. None of us are out here trying to prove that anything that we think is right. We're just trying to find out what the heck is going on, and document what's going on. And, first document it all and then figure out what it is. You don't think first and then try to prove it. That's the wrong way to go about science, You got to keep an open mind, completely open mind, and that means open to things that you don't think exist as well, in order to actually do science.
Yeah, I mean... It's tough to remember that last part sometimes. I mean, if somebody, there's no secret about where I stand on certain things. People who listen to the show, like, I'm not gonna go into a God situation with people, right? Or at least a monotheistic religion timeline or like storyline for myself in any of my experiences necessarily. But, it's not just being open to the paranormal or like the reasons or the sources or the things like that. I too have to like, okay, don't be an asshole and maybe be open-minded about some of this other stuff too, that I know, just being raised Catholic and being like, I'm done with all that shit. Right. So it's like, okay, just have a little bit, just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. All the way around, man.
Maybe just don't be an asshole.
If you really want to know what's going on, you got to just like, check it out, see what's going on, man. You don't just think you already know what's going on and go in there and go, how come this isn't going on like I thought it was going to go on? This ain't going on the right way.
What's going on?
What's going on here?
What's going on?
And they say, well, it's just going on like you should have known it was going on because it's just going on, bro.
Bro, I could just do this all night. So that's what's going on? Yeah, that's what's going on. But I don't know what's going on because what's going on isn't what I thought was going on.
Oh man,
we got to get those T-shirts made. What's going on?
What's going on?
What's going on is not how I thought it was going on.
What's going on here? Because it ain't what I thought was going to go on.
That's so funny. Oh man, I'm so excited about this trip. I can't wait to go. I'm so glad, that 2019 happened in the first place. We've become buddies ever since. It's been great. If someone wants to take a big jump from the life they have now, which includes zero squatching and or paranormal investigating, and they want to be right in the middle of it all, what would you say is the best way to go about doing that, other than just doing it? You know what I mean? Like, is there a practical method?
Yes. You have to go where it's been done, where it's already happened before, where there's documentation again that what you seek has happened. And, if I was just starting out, I'd try to hook up with somebody like you or I and get to one of these places where all this stuff has happened.
Which I've had people reach out, and unfortunately we just can't bring everybody.
And I'm not inviting everybody to come. I mean, I'm saying I know it's a very limited thing.
But every once in a while, someone
I'm just
can
saying,
provide. They can provide service. They're gifts. They're special skills.
But
right?
Philosophically speaking, that's what you want, is to go where. And if you're into Bigfoot, just go into the BFRO reports. I know they're all old, but you can look up your county and you can see where there's actually been activity.
And that site's still active, right?
It's still active, but it's just they're really far behind on updating the sightings. I mean, years. But it's still a great resource. Like, anybody in the country can look up their county and see their Bigfoot reports, and then they can go out there where it happened. And that's what happened to me in Oregon. I followed an old report, and I ended up in my area where I had so much stuff happen over years, and all it was a report of a guy was out there fishing, and he had some rocks thrown at him while he was fishing, and I think he got screamed at or something, and he left, But I followed that report out there, and I ended up finding all kinds of great structures, and I had trees pushed over, and I had I've seen Bigfoot out there and found tracks, and I found handprints, and it's a real active area, and I brought a lot of people out there that had experiences. So, but I followed the BFRO report to get out there. Once you get out to an area and you start to stake it out, and then, that's where you go, then you're going to have more opportunity, because Bigfoot will start to get used to you and will more likely be seen, or at least interact, throw rocks at you or something.
That's interesting, because I think so many of us nowadays have this idea of like, oh, we're going to go to a place that's never been found before, right? Or a new discovery, a place that hasn't been tainted by other people.
Been there and done that, and walked miles and miles and miles and miles, and that's what you'll find. And people doubt structures and stuff, but you got a place where you got all these Bigfoot structures, but then you can walk just right down the road a couple miles, you can walk for 5 miles and not find one, because they don't really just happen in nature, especially at that frequency. You know what I mean? So there's certain areas where it's self-evident that there's Bigfoot activity by the stick structures, that a lot of people don't even believe in the stick structures, but I'm telling you, it's a numbers game. It's impossible that Bigfoot does not do it. If you've traveled enough out in the forest, you know this.
Yeah, so instead of like always trying to like stake your claim to the newest, greatest hotspot that no one's ever heard of or found before, if you're trying to get into this game, or you really want to be a part of the the investigation world, it's like all you have to do is decide that you're going to go out and investigate, and boom, guess what? You're part of the investigation world, and it happens though however you want to do it. Now there's protocols and all those things that people will tell you about, but it's just that's all dependent on what level of or what style of investigation you want to be doing.
Right. And we talked about equipment, everything from me just going out with my cell phone to Ed with a huge case full of stuff to go out with, and everything in between. It's like you're not doing it wrong. As long as you're getting out there and doing it, you're not doing it wrong. And especially if you're going somewhere, whether it be a famous haunted place or a famous Bigfoot spot or whatever it is, But if you can't find a spot on the map, if you can't find your reports or whatever, if you're kind of lost, find a mentor, man. Find somebody that's been doing this a while. And it doesn't have to be me or Ryan. It could be anybody. It could be somebody in your local area that maybe you could get together with and go on hunts with or whatever, I think that's a real good piece of advice too. Try to get advice from people who've done it before you get out there and do it. I did that as well. There was a couple old-time Bigfooters that I talked to extensively before I even got out in the woods.
It's a shortcut. You don't have to make the same mistakes or do the same things to waste your time. You can just cut to the middle of the line.
Exactly.
I love that idea. And, because, I'm not going to sit here and act like in the past, I haven't been like, I need to find a place that's never been investigated by anybody. The idea of finding something and making it your own. But it's like, none of this stuff's our own. We don't own any of this stuff. And, we don't own the bridges.
No.
That's their house.
Exactly.
And other people have been there. Other people will be there, I'm sure. But it's people who live there. This isn't an old prison that's abandoned that you can rent for investigations. So it's a little bit different because it's like a private. It's the definition of a private investigation for people who are experiencing something in their house, at their house. So that's a little bit different than going to a state park or something like that. So to me, that's and the mutilation ranch is the same way. It's someone's property.
Right.
But yeah, there's plenty of places to go. And I love this idea of, find a place that's like a hot spot.
Yeah.
Because, why not rely on history to
absolutely
whet your appetite?
And you're going to be way more excited about it if you go have some real action.
Yeah.
You think you're excited now? Wait till you get out there and you have a few things happen and you have it on a recording or a video or something, and you can look at it again and go, oh my gosh, what do we got here?
Everybody went out for the first time at some point.
That's true.
Every single person who's ever been doing this has gone out for the first time at some point. And all of us at some point have never known what the hell we were doing. And still, for me, I would argue. But
and we've worked through difficulties. We've worked through problems with equipment and things that didn't work that we thought was going to work, and buying drones for a certain thing that never happened.
I bought a drone that I might as well just thrown my money into a fire pit at one point. I bought a drone that just, why did I buy this? This isn't working. This isn't doing what I wanted it or needed to do. Just being an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're not. That's when you're on your way to being an investigator, I think. When you buy at least one or two pieces of equipment that you're just like, why did I buy this?
Yeah.
That are just basically paperweights.
Yeah, and it's stuff that, your local plumber or tire guy is not going to buy. It's like some kind of specialty thing.
So no practical use whatsoever.
No regular people are throwing their money away on this thing, and you're just looking at it going,
That's so funny.
Am I going to get anything out of this?
And the answer is no. A story. Well, Dan, this has been great. Dan Lindholm of Big Truth. Check out Big Truth's YouTube page. What is it? It's youtube.com/@
Big Truthification, I think.
Big Truthification.
Just look
up
Big
right.
Truth and you'll find it.
You'll find it. If you've ever seen the back of my car, that's the logo. You see the bumper sticker on my car.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been great. Can't wait. Can't wait to tell people some of the stuff that happens down here in Florida. So
Yeah, it's going to be great, man. I can't wait to.
yeah. So thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope the audio quality is okay on this. This is on my cell phone on the fly. I might do some more on the fly while we're in Florida as well. So, hey, that's just the way it is. So thanks again. I've got tour dates going up on the website, ryansingercomedy.com/tour. This summer, we're going to be out there. I'm hoping to film something the end of summer and early fall. So a new special. I'm thinking I don't know what I'm going to call it. It's probably just going to be called like Whimsy Till Death or something. But we'll see. Hope to see you at a live show. If not, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.